Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the video for the Introduction to Probability. In this video, we're going to cover the basics of probability. So by the end of this video, the student should be able to understand basic definitions and notation for probability. We will introduce the two mathematical definitions of probability, differentiate between sampling with and without replacement, calculate odds in favor and against any given event, and construct an expected value table. So starting with some basic definitions, we have an event. In statistics, an event is simply any result or outcome from a set of procedures or trials. Furthermore, a simple event is an event that cannot be broken down into any smaller parts. So many simple events can make up an event. So for any given event A, it has a probability of P of A occurring. Now, this ability to understand events leads us to be able to construct a sample space. A sample space is simply a listing or a diagram of all possible outcomes from any given procedure or trial. So sometimes it's presented in tree form, with event 1 being here, and then the two possible outcomes from event 2 here, and so on and so forth, until we have all possible events listed, and each branch of that tree gives us the entire sample space when combined. Now moving on to the idea of a complement. So if I have event A that has probability P of A, then the complement of P of A is the likelihood of P of A not occurring, and it's denoted as A bar, and it has probability of A bar. And the last concept you really want to understand is the concept of disjoint events. In real life, we use the term mutually exclusive. One event occurring means that the other cannot occur. For example, if I'm sitting here recording this video, I'm not at the beach. So in probability, we have two major definitions of the entire concept of probability. One is the relative frequency approach, where the probability of event A is equal to the number of times event A occurred divided by total number of events. We also have the classical definition of probability, which is something you may be more familiar with, where P of A, that is the probability of event A, is equal to the number of ways A can occur over the total number of possible outcomes. Another very important concept in probability is the idea of independent events versus dependent events. Now, independent events are just that. They're independent of each other. Event A can have no effect on event B. Conversely, dependent events, event B can have some effect on event A and vice versa. So, what we want to realize is that the main issue this arises from in sampling with and without replacement, which we're going to cover on the next slide. So to do an example of sampling with replacement, we're going to take my beautifully drawn bag of marbles here, and we're going to pick two in a row. So if in the first case I pick this blue marble right here, and I take it out of the bag, it has some probability, in this case 4 out of 12, so the odds of picking a blue marble are 4 in 12. That's the number of ways I can pick a blue marble, 4, over the total number of marbles in the bag, which is 12. So if I were to pick another marble with replacement, I would have to return this first blue marble back into the bag, and then I could pick another one. And that, in a nutshell, is sampling with replacement. So now to give an example of sampling without replacement. So I take my beautifully drawn bag of marbles, and in this case, I want to pick a red marble. So I take this one right here, and I take it out of the bag. Now the probability of picking that red marble was 3 red marbles out of 12 marbles in the bag. So now I want to try and pick another red marble. So I keep this one outside the bag, and I try to aim for this one. However, you'll realize now that the probability has changed because now there's only 2 red marbles left in the bag out of 11 total marbles that are now in the bag with that first one kept outside. So that the probability has shifted between event A and event B. So the difference between sampling without replacement versus with is that with replacement, the probability of any one particular event remains the same when you sample with replacement, but it shifts when you sample without replacement. So now I want to cover with you the concept of odds. Some of you may have seen odds posted in casinos or in other gambling areas because they're legally required to post them. And the way they calculate them are 2 different ways. So for the odds against, it is always P of X bar divided by P of X. So using my last marble example, if I had 3 reds out of 12 marbles, that means I have 3 in the denominator and 9 other marbles in the numerator. So I have, that reduces to 3 over 1. So the odds against picking a red marble are written as 3 colon 1, and we read that as 3 to 1. Conversely, odds in favor is simply the reciprocal of this number, so the odds for, or in favor, is simply written as 1 colon 3 and read as 1 to 3. So the last thing I want to cover with you today is the expected value of a game. So this is done as a chart, and the way we do it is that we take the guaranteed cost of the game. So for example, a $5 bet in a game of roulette, we are guaranteed to spend $5 on a $5 bet, and let's say we bet on one particular number, let's say 00. So the probability of losing this $5 bet is 37 slots that are not 00 out of the 38 slots. So we multiply this by 37 over 38. So the other possible outcome is that we win. And in a game of roulette, if you bet on the right number, you make $180 minus your initial bet of $5. So our net profit would be $175. And the only way that occurs if we land on the 00, so we multiply that by 1 out of 38. So when we multiply these out, we find that this is equal to negative $4.87. And when we multiply the winning out, we find that is equal to $4.61. So what we do is we add them together, and we find that the total is negative 26 cents. So, since the expected value of this game is that you're going to lose money in the long run, approximately 26 cents per time you spin that wheel, that it's generally a bad idea to play roulette. So as always, additional help is always available if you need more help understanding the concept. E-Tutoring is always available 24/7, and you can go online for the schedules for the Bedford and Lowell Math Centers. Additionally, I will be uploading a link with the description of this video to a tip sheet that covers these specific topics as well as a few other definitions and extra stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone.